Let's talk specifically about translational entrepreneurship to provide you guys with something that's actionable and interesting versus like some random talk about behavioral economics. And the term that keeps coming up is translational entrepreneurship, meaning that there's some finding that some researcher typically has, and then can they take that finding, can they make it valuable to the world? So there's lots of examples of it. So if you look at neural networks, for example, this cross-pollination, like cognitive neuroscience came up with this idea of neural networks and understanding when, and I studied this in my PhD program and I found it fascinating, this idea of the statistical properties of how a neuron works, how non-deterministic and how probabilistic neurons are. It's absolutely mind-blowing if you study like single cells. And the idea here is that it led to modern AI. And you talk about, recurrent neural networks, and a lot of AI models that you're using came from neuroscience. And I think that's really, really cool. So I just go into this example. I don't need to necessarily go through the whole slide, but the idea is that you had an idea, and the entrepreneurial outcome is that entire ecosystems came from basic science. And I think that's wild. And I'd be willing to wager there's someone on this call that has something that, even though you can't see it now, has some big application. And that's what we're going to probably end the talk with, is thinking about that. There are other examples like CRISPR. So there are people here who, Majid probably knows this way better than I do, coming from microbiology and then being applied to genetics. And then, the defense mechanism bacteria became a universal gene editing tech. And there's like lots and lots of examples. I have a third example here about cytometry physics to immuno-oncology. It's not a field I know well. I was just sort of looking up at examples, but laser physics in fluid dynamics being applied to cancer biology and diagnostics. And then boom, you get Becton, Dickinson, Illumina, and other biotech giants that came from this interesting research. I can say that my own research benefited from it, where we did liquid chromatography, tandem spectrometry, mass spectrometry on the biological samples that we did for another study using testosterone, and it was absolutely bananas. I went to the lab in Portland. Very grateful to have David Zava as a co-author. The guy's an absolute genius and has this lab called ZRT. And I went there to Portland and saw the machine. It was like blew my mind how cleanly it measured these molecules. I was very impressed. So it was cool to see how these fields enabled even economics research in ways that you wouldn't have thought for sure that it would be relevant to economics.